Am I the asshole for not inviting my sibling to my wedding? Amid the whirlwind of wedding preparations, the guest list had been a source of contention for weeks. My fiancé and I had carefully selected our closest friends and family members, making sure every seat was reserved for someone special. However, as the big day drew nearer, I found myself facing an unexpected dilemma: whether or not to invite my sibling. Growing up, my sibling and I had a turbulent relationship. We were like oil and water, always clashing over the smallest of issues. Their stubbornness and my own were like magnets repelling each other. Our disagreements had left deep scars, and we hadn't spoken in years. As the invitations were about to be sent, my parents called to persuade me to include my sibling. They argued that it was a chance to mend bridges and that family should always come first, but every fiber of my being resisted the idea. I couldn't shake the fear that their presence would overshadow our special day, turning it into a battlefield once more. With a heavy heart, I made the decision to omit my sibling from the guest list, convinced it was the right choice for my peace of mind. The invitations went out, and there was an eerie calm before the storm. The day of the wedding arrived, filled with joy and anticipation. Everything was perfect: the venue, the decorations, the weather, except for one heavy cloud of guilt hanging over me. As I stood at the altar exchanging vows with my love, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had made a colossal mistake. Shortly after the ceremony, the whispers began. My relatives and some mutual friends had learned about my decision and couldn't fathom why I had chosen to exclude my own flesh and blood. Awkward conversations, pointed questions, and tense glances filled the air, threatening to eclipse the happiness of the day. Then, during the reception, I received a text message from my sibling. It was a heartfelt message, filled with sorrow and longing, expressing their desire to be part of my life and my special day. I felt a pang of guilt and regret like a knife through my heart. As the night wore on, I couldn't help but wonder if I had made the wrong choice. Was my sibling's absence truly worth the price of my happiness on this important day? Or had I let old wounds and stubbornness cloud my judgment, potentially causing irreparable damage to our already fractured relationship? The evening came to a close with a bittersweet taste in my mouth. The joy of my wedding day was tinged with regret, leaving me to grapple with the question that haunted me. Was I the asshole for not inviting my sibling, or had I made a necessary sacrifice for my own peace of mind? Am I the asshole for exposing my friend's secret to protect them? Am I the asshole for revealing my best friend's secret to save them from a colossal mistake? It all started when they met a mysterious stranger online, someone they claimed was their soulmate. My friend, a hopeless romantic, was head over heels in love, but something about this relationship set off alarm bells in my head. As weeks turned into months, my friend became more emotionally invested in this online love affair. Late-night phone calls, whispered secrets, and stolen moments away from our circle of friends. They were completely under this person's spell, and it terrified me. One day, I overheard a conversation on the phone that chilled me to the bone. My friend's soulmate was asking for a substantial amount of money, claiming they were in dire straits and needed it to survive. My friend, blinded by love, was willing to send it, despite having limited resources themselves. Fearing the worst, I decided to dig deeper. I discovered that my friend's online love interest had a history of manipulating people and running various scams. It was evident that they were taking advantage of my friend's vulnerability. Unable to stand by and watch my best friend fall into this trap, I confronted them about what I'd discovered. The conversation turned into a heated argument as they accused me of meddling in their life and betraying their trust. But I had to make a choice. Even if it meant jeopardizing our friendship, I revealed the truth to our other friends, hoping they would support my decision to protect our friend from potential financial ruin. My actions led to a dramatic showdown, with my best friend feeling humiliated and betrayed. Now, I'm left wondering if I did the right thing. Was I the asshole for exposing their secret, or did I ultimately save them from a dangerous scam? Our friendship hangs by a thread, and I can't help but question whether I made the right choice. The aftermath of my decision was messy, with my best friends struggling to come to terms with the fact that they had been deceived. While they eventually cut ties with the online manipulator, our friendship remained strained, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had crossed a line. Did my actions make me an asshole? Or did I do what was necessary to protect someone I cared about? Am I the asshole for telling my friend her partner is cheating even though I had no proof? Am I the asshole for spilling the beans about something that may not even be true? Well, here's the story. My best friend Sarah had been dating Mark for almost 3 years. They seemed like the perfect couple, always posting cute pictures on social media, laughing together, and even talking about moving in together. But something didn't sit right with me, and it ate away at me until I couldn't keep quiet anymore. One evening, as Sarah and I were catching up over coffee, she mentioned that Mark had been acting distant lately. She was worried he might be losing interest, and it was affecting her self-esteem. Now, let me be clear, I genuinely cared about Sarah and hated seeing her upset. So, against my better judgment, I blurted out, "I think Mark might be cheating on you." Her eyes widened in shock, and her coffee cup rattled as she put it down. "What? Why would you say that?" I hesitated for a moment, realizing that I had no concrete evidence to back up my claim. It was just a gut feeling based on some vague observations. "Well," I stammered, "I've seen him talking to this girl at his workplace a lot, and they seem really close. Plus, I've heard some rumors." Sarah's face turned from shock to anger. "Rumors? You're accusing him of cheating based on rumors and your so-called observations? That's insane." I could see that I had crossed a line, and I felt terrible for upsetting her. But part of me believed that I might be onto something, and I didn't want to see her hurt. I tried to backpedal, saying, "Look, I didn't mean to upset you. I just thought you should know what I've heard and seen. Maybe it's nothing, but maybe it's something." Sarah's anger didn't subside. She accused me of being a bad friend for even bringing it up without any proof. We argued, and our conversation ended on a sour note. I left feeling like I had done something terribly wrong. Over the next few weeks, Sarah confronted Mark about my accusations. He denied everything, insisting that his relationship with his female coworker was purely professional. Sarah wasn't entirely convinced, but she decided to trust her partner and give him the benefit of the doubt. Months passed, and Mark and Sarah's relationship continued. They seemed to work through their issues, and the allegations I had made faded into the background. But there was a lingering tension between Sarah and me. Our friendship had suffered because of my impulsive words that day. So, here I am, wondering if I was the asshole for opening my mouth without any concrete evidence, potentially damaging their relationship and straining my friendship with Sarah. Did I jump the gun? Should I have kept my suspicions to myself until I had something more substantial to go on? Or was I just trying to protect my best friend, even if it meant stepping into murky waters? You be the judge. Am I the asshole for leaving my date stranded at the top of a Ferris wheel? I had been looking forward to this date with Lily for weeks. She was smart, funny, and incredibly beautiful. To impress her, I decided to take her to the local carnival, thinking it would be a fun and memorable experience. Little did I know that it would turn into a night I'd never forget, and not in a good way. As we arrived at the carnival, I could tell that Lily was excited. She had a sparkle in her eye that made my heart race. We went on rides, played games, and indulged in cotton candy and funnel cakes. It was going perfectly, or so I thought. Towards the end of the evening, Lily noticed the Ferris wheel and suggested we go on it. I was afraid of heights, but I didn't want to seem like a chicken, so I reluctantly agreed. We joined the line, and as we waited, I could feel my anxiety growing. My palms were sweaty, and I couldn't stop fidgeting. When it was our turn to board, I tried to put on a brave face. We settled into our seat, and the ride began to ascend. As we climbed higher and higher, I gripped the safety bar tightly, my knuckles turning white. Lily, on the other hand, was having a blast. She laughed and pointed out the beautiful view of the carnival lights below. But my fear was getting the best of me. My heart raced, and I felt like I was going to pass out. I knew I couldn't stay on that Ferris wheel any longer. I turned to Lily and stammered, "I'm sorry, I can't do this. I need to get off." Panic had taken over my voice. Lily looked shocked and disappointed, but agreed to get off with me. The ride operator stopped the wheel, and we were stuck in our cabin, suspended high in the air. I thought I would feel relief once I was back on solid ground, but instead, I felt guilt. I could see the frustration in Lily's eyes as we waited for the operator to lower us down. She had been having a great time, and I had ruined it all because of my fear of heights. When we finally reached the ground, she didn't say a word to me. She simply walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling like the world's biggest jerk. I tried texting and calling Lily, apologizing profusely, but she didn't respond. I realized that I had not only ruined our date, but also hurt her feelings. I felt like the biggest asshole on the planet. A few days later, I gathered the courage to send her a heartfelt apology message. I explained my fear of heights and how it had overwhelmed me that night. I told her how much I liked her and how sorry I was for ruining our date. To my surprise, she replied, forgiving me for my actions and expressing understanding. We decided to give our date another shot, this time without any Ferris wheels involved. It turned out to be a wonderful evening filled with laughter and good memories. I had learned my lesson about facing my fears and not letting them sabotage potentially great moments in life. So, am I the asshole for leaving my date stranded at the top of a Ferris wheel? At that moment, I definitely was. But I was also lucky enough to have a second chance, and I was determined not to let my fears get the best of me again.
Am I the asshole for selling my boyfriend's video game collection when he wouldn't help with house chores? So here's the tea. Jake and I moved in together with dreams of that perfect shared life. Picture this: Netflix marathons, late-night snacks, and even those cute couple workouts. Reality check. It wasn't like that at all. 6 months in, and our cozy apartment resembled a frat house after a wild party. Everywhere I looked, there were pizza boxes, socks, and worst of all, those pesky dishes that just never seemed to get done. I mean, how hard is it to clean a plate? Our arrangement seemed simple enough. I'd handle the cooking, and he'd take care of cleaning up afterward. But soon, every inch of our counters was covered in dishes. And Jake? He was always too busy battling enemies in his virtual world to notice the real-world mess around him. I tried everything: gentle reminders, sulky silent treatments, and even the playful bribe of joining him in his games if he'd just keep his end of the bargain. But nada. One evening, as I came home from a particularly brutal day at work, I found Jake, headset on, controller in hand, deep in a gaming session. Around him, chaos. The final straw was seeing my favorite coffee mug, stained and abandoned on the living room floor. My patience had officially run its course. Am I the asshole for selling my boyfriend's video game collection when he wouldn't help with house chores? Part 2. The next morning, with Jake blissfully snoring away after an all-nighter, I hatched a plan. I gathered every single game disc, cartridge, and accessory, and sold the lot to a local gaming store. The money? Spent on hiring a cleaning service and a much-needed spa retreat for myself. It was divine. By evening, our apartment had transformed back to its initial glory, and I lounged, fresh-faced and relaxed, sipping wine. Jake's return was, well, apocalyptic. The moment he realized his prized collection was missing, the color drained from his face. "What have you done?" he gasped, his voice a mix of anger and disbelief. And so, I narrated my day, emphasizing the serene spa session. His reaction was, to put it mildly, explosive. He yelled. I yelled back. We were at an impasse. My phone buzzed incessantly as divided friends weighed in. Some lauded me for standing my ground, while others believed I'd committed the ultimate betrayal. As the dust settled and Jake and I navigated the tense silence of our apartment, a thought gnawed at me. Amidst the battle for respect and shared responsibilities, had I gone too far? So here I am, laying it all out, seeking clarity. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for re-gifting an expensive present I received from my ex to my current boyfriend? So, rewind a bit. My ex, Jake, and I were, that couple. PDA everywhere, romantic trips, surprise gifts, the works. One evening, he surprised me with this to-die-for dinner at the city's poshest restaurant. As dessert was served, he handed me a cute, tiny box. Inside, a dazzling, custom-made diamond pendant, fit for a prince. Stunning. But after the mess of our breakup, every glimpse of that pendant just dragged back memories of Jake's betrayals. Now, I'm with Liam, the sweetest guy ever. With his birthday coming up and funds being kinda tight, a thought hit me. Why not pass on the pendant? Liam would rock it. And so, decision made. Fast forward to Liam's birthday bash. I watched with bated breath as he unwrapped my gift. The look on his face? Pure elation. He wore it and it looked even better than I'd imagined. But then, life's curveball. At the same party, in walks Jake. One glance at the pendant, and his eyes narrowed. He swaggered over, a smirk playing on his lips. "Recognize that, Liam?" he asked. The air grew tense. Liam looked from the pendant to me, confusion evident. Jake spilled the pendant's history, leaving Liam feeling like he was just wearing my emotional leftovers. I tried explaining, emphasizing it was about moving on and cherishing the present, not the past. But Jake's words had dug deep, casting a shadow on what was supposed to be a joyous occasion. Now, Liam's hurt, and I'm riddled with guilt. Did I royally screw up? Am I the asshole here? Am I the asshole for staging a fake proposal at my best friend's wedding? So, here's the tea. I was the maid of honor at Lisa's fairy tale wedding, the one she'd dreamt of since we played brides in kindergarten. The venue looked straight out of a romance novel, and the atmosphere was buzzing with love. But just as we were about to kick off the reception, disaster struck. Lisa accidentally spilled red wine all over her pristine white gown. The horror on her face broke my heart. She was close to breaking down, thinking her big day was ruined. Wanting to help, a wild idea crossed my mind. What if I could divert everyone's attention for a bit? So, in a crazy spur-of-the-moment decision, I asked Meek, our mutual friend, to propose it to me during the first dance. Music started playing, and as Lisa tried to hide the stain, Mike took a deep breath and approached me. With all eyes on him, he dramatically got down on one knee and presented a colorful ring pop, asking me to be his forever. The room was a mix of gasps and giggles. Everyone was so engrossed in our act that Lisa slipped away to switch into her backup dress. Our plan seemed to work. She returned looking as gorgeous as ever, and the rest of the night felt like a dream. But as dawn broke and the euphoria settled, my phone was flooded with mixed reactions. While some thought our stunt was hilarious and innovative, many felt we'd overshadowed Lisa's big moment. Lisa herself sent a sweet thank you text, but she also hinted that a few family members were quite upset. My intentions were pure, just wanting to save my bestie's day. But now, lying in bed, replaying last night's events, I can't help but wonder, did I take it too far? Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for crashing a wedding to confront my ex? Okay, let me spill. Mark and I, we were a thing for 5 whole years. Picture this. Endless nights talking about our future, deciding on names for our kids, and daydreaming about our wedding day. We even had this specific venue we were obsessed with. It was like something out of a fairy tale. But one random day, Mark decides it's over. He gives me that lame "it's not you, it's me" speech. I was heartbroken, like shattered. Time flies, and in just 6 months, Jenna, my ultimate bestie, drops this bomb on me. Mark's getting hitched. And here's the crazy part. He chose our dream venue. I mean, how could he? Jenna, sipping on her 3rd glass of wine, goes like, "Girl, we should totally crash it." And honestly, I was tempted.
It's the day of the wedding. My stomach's doing somersaults, and Jenna's hyping me up with this playlist she made just for the occasion. We sneak into the venue, and everything looked just like our dream. The lights, the flowers, it was perfect, but not for me. Before I could even get my bearings, there's Mark. We locked eyes. The room's noise faded, and it felt like just the two of us. My voice shaking, I asked, "Why here, Mark? Why her?" He looked taken aback, but then his expression softened. He explained. Turns out his fam was super traditional. They had this whole arranged marriage thing planned for him since forever. He said he loved me truly, but he couldn't fight his family. It was heartbreaking, but in a weird way, clarifying. I left the wedding with a weird mix of emotions, sadness, relief, and confusion. But now I wonder, was I out of line for making a scene on his day?
Am I the asshole for telling my cousin they were adopted during a heated argument? Our family gatherings were always an event, a mix of laughter, stories, and of course, the occasional drama. This particular evening was no different. The house was filled with the aroma of roasted turkey and fresh-baked pies. My cousin Jamie and I, being the same age, had always been close. From sleepovers to shared birthdays, our bond was enviable. But recently, there had been an unspoken tension between us. Jamie had grown distant, and our once light-hearted banter had become increasingly sour. During dinner, our playful debate about who was better at a particular video game took a sharper turn. Words flew, each more hurtful than the last. Amidst the heated exchange and the weight of our unspoken issues, I impulsively let out a secret I had overheard years ago. Well, at least I know my real parents. Jamie stared at me, their confusion evident. What do you mean by that? They challenged. Swallowing hard, I confessed, Jamie, you're adopted. A heavy silence draped the room. Our relatives stopped mid-conversation, forks halfway to their mouths. The weight of what I'd just revealed hung in the air. Aunt Lisa, always the pillar of our family, was the first to speak. Her voice shaky, she asked, "Is this how you wanted Jamie to find out?" My heart sank, regret instantly settling in. Jamie's face was a mix of disbelief and hurt. They excused themselves from the table and hurried out of the room, leaving behind a trail of whispered discussions. Aunt Lisa later confided in me. They had always planned to tell Jamie about the adoption when the time felt right, wanting to ensure that Jamie knew they were loved regardless of their origin. My impulsive revelation had robbed them of that moment. Days turned into weeks, and the aftermath of that dinner was a family rift that seemed unbridgeable. Whispers of blame and sides taken became the norm. One afternoon, I found Jamie at our favorite childhood hangout spot. I approached cautiously. "I can't change the past, but I'm so sorry for the hurt I caused," I began. We spoke, emotions raw and barriers breaking. The journey of healing had begun, but trust is fragile. Our bond, once unbreakable, now had cracks. Through time and understanding, we hope to mend them. Am I the asshole for sharing a truth that was never mine to unveil?
Am I the asshole for unexpectedly bringing a stranger to my best friend's wedding as my date? Let's travel back a bit. Picture this. My favorite coffee shop, the aroma of freshly brewed beans in the air, and me, pouring out my feelings about attending the upcoming wedding all alone to anyone who would listen. As fate would have it, a charming voice from the next table decided to chime in. Max, a genuinely delightful stranger, proposed half seriously that he could accompany me. The more we conversed, the more the idea didn't seem that outlandish. In the spirit of adventure, I agreed. The days leading to the wedding saw Max and me getting to know each other better, and my confidence in my decision grew. Fast forward to the wedding day, every detail was impeccable and Max seemed to be a hit. But as the evening unfolded and just as we were all raising our glasses for a toast, my best friend's eyes locked onto Max's. In an instant, her cheerful demeanor was replaced with one of shock. She beckoned me, her face a mix of anger and disbelief. Here's where the plot thickens. Max wasn't just any guy from a coffee shop. He was her intense college romance, the very individual who had shattered her heart years ago. She had been meticulous in ensuring he wasn't on the guest list, and yet, through my innocent blunder, he was at the heart of the celebration. A cloud of tension enveloped the venue. While a portion of the guests found humor in the serendipity, others were appalled. Despite my genuine apologies, the weight of the situation pressed down on the celebration. Max, grasping the magnitude of the awkwardness, chose to exit. My dear friend tried her best to stay composed, but the pain was evident. My goal was to add a splash of fun to the wedding, but I unintentionally dredged up old hurts. With our once rock-solid friendship now on shaky grounds, I'm reflecting on whether my decision was ill-conceived. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for accidentally giving melatonin-infused cupcakes to kids at a birthday party? Let's take a step back. Becky, my longtime friend since our sandbox days, was organizing a lively birthday party for her spirited 7-year-old daughter, Sarah. In our group, I was the unofficial baker. Becky, trusting my skills, asked if I'd make cupcakes for the big day. However, a curveball was thrown my way. The evening before Sarah's party, I was making special cupcakes for an adult sleepover using melatonin, a natural sleep aid, to help the group relax. I meticulously stored them away, but during the morning rush, I grabbed the wrong box for the birthday bash. As the day unfolded, Kids ran around playing tag, showing off their party clothes and buzzing about the impending magic show. But when cupcake time rolled around, I noticed the energy shift. At first, I chalked it up to a sugar crash or perhaps the exhausting games. But then, as minutes passed, nearly every child began to yawn, their playful energy diminishing rapidly. The scene became surreal. Like dominoes, one after another, kids started curling up on couches and chairs, falling into deep, peaceful slumbers. The first wave of concern hit when a parent laughingly said, "I wish my Tommy slept this easily at home." But as more children nodded off, laughter turned to worry. Becky, with a furrowed brow, asked if I had put anything different in the cupcakes. The horror of my mistake dawned on me, and I confessed. Panic ensued. Parents were making frantic calls, some discussing potential hospital visits. Even though melatonin is generally safe, children consuming adult dosages can be a cause for concern. What was meant to be a day of celebration turned into an impromptu sleepover with deeply worried parents. Becky, feeling a mix of anger and concern, couldn't fathom the oversight. As the evening concluded with many children still asleep, the weight of my error bore down on me. Reflecting on the unintended consequences, I'm haunted by one question. Despite it being an accident, was I careless to the point of irresponsibility? Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for switching vacation plans without telling my family? For our 25th wedding anniversary, my wife and I wanted the quintessential Paris experience. Just us, a celebration of our love, uninterrupted. I'd been saving for this trip since our 20th anniversary, and everything was booked. A charming hotel, moonlit Seine river cruises, and even reservations at restaurants with impossible wait lists. However, our plans were upended when our 30-year-old son, Alex, heard about our trip. He's been struggling with his startup and saw this as a chance for a break, pleading to join. His recent divorce had left him emotionally vulnerable, and my wife, with her tender heart, couldn't say no. Reluctantly, I agreed, and we shifted our plans to a more family-friendly itinerary. With the trip weeks away, I found an old love letter my wife had written to me in Paris decades ago. Reading her words, I was overwhelmed with a longing for that private celebration we had dreamt of. In a rash decision, driven by nostalgia and stubbornness, I switched back our tickets to the original Paris plan. I kept it a secret, wanting to surprise my wife. The night before our departure, I revealed the truth. My wife was shocked, torn between joy and guilt. But there was no time to contemplate. Our flight was in hours. With our bags packed and hearts racing, we left for the airport, leaving a note for Alex, who would arrive at an empty house the next day. Landing in Paris, I felt a cocktail of excitement and dread. As we strolled along the cobblestone streets, my wife's smile was a mixture of delight and worry. Finally, we mustered the courage to call Alex. The call was a disaster. Alex was furious, feeling tricked and abandoned. He had been counting on this trip not just for leisure, but as a distraction from his loneliness. The line went dead with Alex's anger still echoing. We tried to enjoy Paris, but the joy was tainted. Returning home, the silence from Alex was deafening. My wife's siblings urged me to mend fences, and deep down I knew our son felt betrayed. He had imagined a trip full of family bonding, perhaps hoping to heal from his personal woes, and I had snatched that away. I love my son, but I also yearned for that slice of the past with my wife. As the days pass, I'm grappling with whether the surprise and the fleeting enchantment of Paris were worth the rift. My wife admits she loved the trip, but is saddened by Alex's hurt. The question of an apology hangs in the air, heavy and unspoken. What do you think? Was I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for hosting my own Thanksgiving after not being invited to my daughter-in-law's? I'm feeling a bit lost and need some outside perspective. My relationship with my daughter-in-law has been rocky from the start. It began with a misunderstanding. When she became pregnant, I suggested my son get a paternity test, considering they weren't exclusive at the time. This suggestion deeply offended her, despite my intentions. Ever since, our interactions have been minimal and tense. Fast forward, it's her turn to host Thanksgiving. I texted to ask about the plans, and to my surprise, she replied that I wasn't invited, though my husband was. Hurt and confused, my husband and I decided to host our own Thanksgiving. I informed my other children about the situation. Now everyone's opting to come to ours, and this has sparked anger from my son and daughter-in-law. They're accusing me of being spiteful and causing a rift. In a recent development, I discovered my son hadn't been aware of my exclusion. It seems there's more to our strained relationship than I realized. I'm attempting to reach out and clarify things,
But it's a complex situation. What do you think? Was I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for insinuating my ex is dating his sister? I, a 26-year-old male, had a brief and tumultuous relationship with a 25-year-old man. The crux of our issues centered around his female best friend, who often referred to herself as his sister. This unusual dynamic piqued my curiosity and skepticism. Whenever I introduced her to my friends and family, I casually mentioned she was his sister. Their reactions always ranged from confusion to disbelief, but neither my ex nor she ever corrected me. Eventually, we parted ways, and they started dating. Fast forward, and a social media mishap linked my story, leading to widespread belief that they are blood-related. This has sparked considerable gossip and discomfort in our social circles. My ex is furious, accusing me of deliberately spreading this misunderstanding. While my initial comments were partly driven by irritation towards her behavior, the ensuing chaos was unintentional. Now, reflecting on the situation, I wonder if my actions were too petty and inadvertently harmful. What do you think? Was I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend that I get to decide who lives in my house? I, a 34-year-old man, have been living with my girlfriend Alice, also 34, for some time. We're serious enough to discuss marriage. Recently, I've decided to have my aging parents move in with me in the USA, a plan they're on board with. I see it as a duty and a sign of respect, common in our shared cultural background. Alice, however, strongly opposes this idea. She feels it's unfair to bring in additional people, especially for such a long-term commitment, without mutual agreement. When Alice suggested alternatives like a nursing home, I lost my cool. I snapped, stating, "It's my house and thus my decision who lives there." This escalated into a heated argument, leaving Alice upset and giving me the silent treatment. I didn't seek her approval initially, believing my responsibility to my parents outweighed our shared living arrangement. Now, I'm questioning if my approach was too harsh. What do you think? Was I the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my 6-year-old that Santa isn't real? I, 39M, and my wife, 32, were watching Elf with our 6-year-old daughter. During a scene about belief in Santa, my daughter repeatedly asked if Santa was real. My wife said yes, but my daughter kept asking me. I, having not celebrated Christmas until adulthood due to my family's religious beliefs, have always been uncomfortable with lying about Santa. I told her Santa is a great idea, but not real. Initially, my daughter seemed fine, but after a long explanation from my wife about why we buy her presents, she became upset. We explained that some parents work hard to maintain the Santa belief and advised her not to spoil it for others. My wife believes I should have maintained the illusion, arguing that believing in Santa is harmless and I can't understand the child's perspective on Christmas. I feel honesty was best when directly asked. Now my daughter's feelings about Christmas are somewhat diminished. What do you think? Was I the asshole? Am I the asshole for telling my son he deserved his girlfriend breaking up with him? My son was in a 2-year long-distance relationship with a girl who was nothing short of wonderful. Everyone in our family adored her. She showed immense dedication, flying over to see him almost every month. However, my son, to my dismay, never made the effort to visit her in return. Despite multiple conversations where I urged him to reciprocate her efforts, he remained adamant about not traveling. His reluctance was partly fueled by my wife, who had her reservations about him flying. The situation escalated when his girlfriend, willing to relocate to our country, asked him to visit her homeland at least once. This seemed like a reasonable request, but my son refused, declaring a complete disinterest in traveling anywhere, even for holidays. This attitude, I felt, was a sign of growing laziness and lack of commitment. Recently, my son announced that she had ended the relationship. Upon checking her social media, we noticed she might already be seeing someone new. In a moment of honesty, I told my son that his ex-girlfriend's decision to break up was justified. I explained that relationships require effort and mutual respect, which he clearly lacked. This blunt assessment has caused a rift, with my wife and son accusing me of being insensitive and cruel. What do you think? Was I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for telling my mom her surgery ruined our lives? I'm a 17-year-old who recently got into fitness. My mom, 47, opted for weight loss surgery, which I opposed due to its risks. I tried persuading her towards a fitness journey, but she accused me of jealousy. She scheduled her surgery on my birthday, causing a rift in our family as she portrayed me negatively. My birthday was ruined by her actions and family backlash. I spent it alone, comforted only by my boyfriend's gestures. Fast forward, I'm in my first year at university, having worked on my mental and physical health. My mom, however, keeps body shaming me and undermines my progress. She even mocks my scars from a past struggle. During a recent confrontation, I told her that her surgery and behavior have been destructive to our relationship and my well-being. She reacted with more hostility, leaving me distraught and seeking comfort from my boyfriend. What do you think? Was I the asshole?